You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionFit.com. Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back one final time here on the old OB for this wild, insane year that was 2025. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. One final reminder for the year, if you're not listening to the full network, man, you missed out on a lot this year. Go check it out if you got some time over the holiday season. And then, of course, if you want to join us for the Pro, there's still a few days left to get your name in the hat for the December Pro Trading Crate. Also get your name in to participate in the round 2 of our Volatility, the infamous, the legendary Vol Death Matches, Pro Q&As. Just had our good buddy Steve Sosnick from IB tackling all your Qs with some sweet A's, as well as options oddities and all sorts of fun live streams, other exclusives. The optionsinsider.com/pro. Check it out. I think you're going to like what you find. And this is normally the portion of the show where I introduce our two combatants gearing up for the final battle of 2025. But we only have one combatant today, listeners, as the Rock Lobster on vacation didn't feel necessary to beam in from his vacation to defend his crown. But you know who is here, who takes this trivia thing seriously. He is the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw. I think by default that makes you the winner for the year, does it not, Mr. Uncle Mike?
That sounds fair to me.
Now, who heard of taking vacations on the final week of the year? I mean, what kind of absurdity is that? We're here.
I don't think he's really on vacation either. I think he's probably trying to spy on other networks, and it's definitely points taken away from the lobster today, no question.
He is definitely spying. Now that you bring that up, I think he's definitely spying for other. I think that's true.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's spying for those CNBC scrubs and Schwab and all those other bastards lurking out there trying to steal our thunder.
Yes.
But you know what, Uncle Mike? We say nay to that as we fire up the final trivia challenge of 2025. Here we go. All right. The unlicensed trivia music in hand. Just generic trivia music. You know, you may or may not have heard it before, but probably not. It's completely unlicensed, Uncle Mike, right? No show has ever used such trivia music in the past. All right. Let's get down to business. I do believe it is an uphill climb for you, Uncle Mike, but let's go out in style with the final battle of 2025, which is uncontested as we see right now. So you get to choose where we go last. I got a feeling you're going to go out the way we came in with the one that brung you, which is, of course, sports and leisure, but perhaps you're going to surprise me, sir. What are your thoughts?
Let's go with sports and leisure.
All right, sports and leisure. We go in with sports and leisure, and we go out with sports and leisure, for good and for ill. All right, here we go. Get your hands on the buzzer. Well, this one, you should have a reasonable chance at getting, sir. What international amateur sports spectacle was first telecast in 1956?
What international amateur? Say that one more time.
What international amateur, I think the key is amateur. What international amateur sports spectacle was first telecast in 1956? I did guess, and I did get it correct. Can you match me, sir?
1956 amateur.
Our chat is also chiming in with wrist wrestling already. It is not wrist wrestling. I will give you that.
I'll go with the Olympics.
There we go. Yeah, I thought that was an easy one. Yes, it was. When they say amateur, what other amateur spectacles really are there, right? All right, 1 point.
No, it's like 50 points because it's Final Jeopardy type of thing, isn't it?
It is at least 50,000 bonus. You could have had arts and leisure here, Uncle Mike. Where did Adolf Hitler write Mein Kampf? I thought that was a challenging one. And I was like, well, I don't remember the exact town or the name of the prison, but all they were looking for was in prison. So that was kind of a weird one.
Okay, I would have said in Germany.
Yeah, so in Germany. I guess in the meta analysis, you would have been correct. I thought that was a strange question to throw on there, listeners. If you're somehow new to this game, you're just joining us at the end of the year. This is where we play authentic blue box Trivial Pursuit from the 80s, listeners. And all sorts of hilarity ensues.
I think this is the last time I can say that I'm the champ. So I'm going to say it. I'm the champ.
Go for it. You are last year's champ. You have the 3 Road Warriors when there are only 2 to prove it. So
yeah.
You are unique in that sense. Did you get it, listeners? Did you get that it was the Olympics? Let's see. And we'll have some fun. We'll reveal the final totals on the first show of 2026. But now it is time for the final, the ultimate trading block of 2025.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down what's trading out there in the old options market. And, we'll get to all the fun that's lighting up the tape today in a few seconds. But, it seemed appropriate, Uncle Mike, since this is our final OB of 2025, that we spend a few minutes looking back, gazing back on the wild, wonderful, insane year that was 2025. I have some thoughts and some data and some analysis I want to do, but if you'd like to go first, Uncle Mike, I can let you go first, or if you want to mull a little bit, I can come back to you. What do you want to do?
Ready to go. Let's talk 2025.
All right, have at it. Dive in, sir. What stands out to you as you look back on the wild year that was 2025 from a markets, from a vol, from a strategy block, from an overall options, whatever perspectives resonate to you, sir?
Well, a few things. Let's talk about stocks to start with. The S&P did make another new all-time high this year. It did it on Christmas Eve. That wasn't the high of the year. Would have been on the 26th, but we did make an all-time high on Christmas Eve. And I don't know. I'd be curious to check. Have we ever made new all-time highs on Christmas Eve in the past? I'd be curious on that. I'm sure it's been done at some point, but it's typically not a day to where you think of Christmas Eve as being a new all-time high day for the marketplace. So we did make all-time highs. I think that 2025 was definitely the year of the collar, in that when you have incidents, let's call it, like what you had in early April, where the market just craps the bed, for lack of a better term, because that is what it did, you have that protection in place. Whether you're doing married puts, whether you're doing a collar or whatever, it's very nice to have that to kind of go through situations like that. Now, should that be with all your portfolio? Of course not. But I do believe that hedged equity is a very important part of your portfolio. And if you can do it right, it can be very beneficial. Times like April could be times to where you can take advantage of a 60 VIX and maybe readjust your hedge and something along those lines. And There's a lot of things that could have been done in April with your hedge. And I think 2025 was definitely a year of a collar and or protective puts. The other thing I would say over the past few years, zero DTEs. I don't personally use zero DTEs, but I do believe that they've had a factor on the marketplace. There's absolutely no reason that we should have had a 60 VIX in April, my opinion. I think that was too much for what the market was actually doing. Or I think, did we hit 60 or was it? But yeah, we did hit 60 in April. I don't think that was justified. And I think that the reason that we're having that is that we're just getting so much volume in zero DTEs when we have crazy days like that. It also happened in August of 2024. And I believe that zero DTEs, it's kind of like the old debate, do options move stocks or do stocks move options? I think that what we're going to be seeing in the future, because of these zero DTEs and the wider popularity of them, the crashes, the crazy days with which we have in the market, I don't feel are going to last as long. And we're going to get quicker corrections, I believe, because of them. So that's another thing that I think has become more prevalent in 2025. The other thing, interest rates. We will be having a new Fed chairman in 2026. And so it's going to be interesting to see what bonds actually do. So in other words, if we do consistently lower interest rates, like the president is saying that it looks like we're going to do, will the bonds go down? Now, theoretically, when interest rates go down, bonds go higher. And the opposite is true, because interest rates and bonds typically have an inverse operation, or have an inverse correlation, not operation. But that's something to where higher interest rates have definitely caught the eye of people. We might go back to lower interest rates as we were for many, many years on this actual show. So that's the other thing that I think is very prevalent in 2025. Combine that with where's real estate going to go? Real estate's been going up very consistently over the course of 2025. You could make a case that, if interest rates go lower, that might jack up the price of real estate because there'll be more buyers. I would contend it might also create more sellers because of the fact that people might be able to buy another house with lower interest rates. That's an unknown factor, but interest rates definitely have played a very big part of 2025. And how can I forget? Silver. Good gosh, that has just become like a meme stock of the precious metals over the course of the last few weeks. But silver is something that I've been talking about on the show for years and years and years and years. And this year, the thief in the night, as I described it, finally showed up. I figured he'd leave right around 40, but he was still kicking once he gets up into the 70s with silver. Just these last few days with silver have been insanity. I think that with typical lower volume trading days, like the day after Christmas, on a Friday before the weekend, you'd think that there wouldn't be a lot of volume with it, but there was definitely a pretty decent amount of volume in silver on that day. So there was buyers coming in where SLV went over 70, but today someone must have told people in the silver trading pit that it was April Fool's Day last Friday. So everybody's selling it right now. Silver's down over 9% on the day today, looking at SLV. So that is something that I think I'm personally at a stage now to where I really don't like having exposure to precious metals at these high levels. And I've been very adamant on this show of having some type of exposure to it for many, many years, but with both silver and gold at these levels, I'd be very concerned at this stage. So we have that. We have a VIX still in the mid-teens. So that's another thing to look back on. We've had our spikes through the year. We've had some higher VIX, but we are ending the year in the mid-teens. So that's another thing with which to look at. We had a new president again in 2025. We weren't quite getting the by the tariff threats markets that we did in Trump's first term. So in other words, in his first term, there'd be a lot of times to where we're going to put lots of tariffs on the board, and then markets go down, you buy, and then shortly after you buy, he says, maybe not now. And then the markets rally. So we got that happening. But now with the tariffs seeming to be more of a mainstay, like a lot of events, the market still doesn't care, or the market likes it, one of the two, because we are at consistent all-time highs in this marketplace. So 2025 was a very interesting and unique year. It was a very exciting year, and looking forward to 2026.
I'll definitely co-sign the metals. I don't think we've ever talked as much metals on the network in a year, Mr. Uncle Mike, as we did this past year, except that one year where you promised me that your silver collar was going to light the world on fire. And we mostly spent that year talking about how it was doing nothing. So that was more of a mockery year. But this year, I mean, even now, when we kicked off our shows today, the first thing folks are talking about in our live was silver, Uncle Mike. So silver, just a wild beast. Of course, gold, you can't forget gold up 50% on the year. I mean, these are just absolutely bonkers numbers. I mentioned it earlier, you go into events now and holiday parties, social gatherings, whatever, and people are coming up to me wanting to talk the shiny stuff, Uncle Mike, which, again, I can't ever recall happening in the nearly 20 years that I've been doing this, Uncle Mike, which is kind of wild to say out loud. Not quite there yet. Next year, 19 years. But a lot of wild stuff to break down. Let's continue that trend. Shall we, listeners? Let's look back on the insane year that was out here this year, listeners. Kind of a fun one. As we're kicking off this final trading week of the year, we are seeing markets mostly in the red. S&P Dow off about 0.5%. NASDAQ off 0.6%. Yeah, off about 0.2%. And VIX cash back to about a 14.5 level, which sounds so rich given where we were just a week ago out there. VVIX 88 up 6 points from last week. VIX cash, remember, we were off for Thursday, so VIX cash unched on the week, 14.5. Nothing happened last week. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain last week. But let's look back a little bit further, shall we? Let's go back to the mad, insane year that was 2025. Let's start off in VIX cash land. Again, we'll do a deeper dive into the year that was vol, coming up on volatility views at the end of the year, which will actually be in the new year on January 2nd, which is wild to say out loud. But before we do that, VIX kicked off the year this year in the cash a little bit shy of 18. 1793 is where we entered the year. So depends on your frame of reference, whether that's elevated or perhaps a little low. And then, as Uncle Mike alluded to, we had some dust-ups in that April time frame. We got up to nearly a 30 in the month preceding it in March, just on the rumors, the speculation around all of this tariff tantrum coming up. We got up to the high 20s, and then, of course, came back to earth below the 20 handle, and then, of course, all the madness popped off in VIX land. Now, again, where VIX cash, the highs and lows for the year, it's a very hotly contentious subject. Listen to what the once and future Dr. VIX has said on that subject in the past, and about, it's difficult. In fact, I like to pull up the low-hanging fruit platform sometimes to see what they're telling folks, going off, the Google Finance and other places, to see what they're telling people were the highs and lows for the year in VIX cash. Google Finance says the high for the year in VIX cash was 60.13, the low 13.38. I'll have to dig into those numbers a little bit to see if those are precise. We've talked before. In fact, that is one of the things that cost Dr. VIX the first vol death match, was his talking points on some of the after-hours prints we're seeing in VIX cash and how it sometimes gums up the works a little bit because they're not really trading there. But that's a conversation we'll probably get into a little bit more on vol views this week. But that is your pretty much ballpark range, somewhere around a 60 in that April time frame. And the low came, appropriately enough just this past week, which is kind of when it's supposed to do. So vol at least working the way it's supposed to end the year, even if it didn't really throughout most of the year. So yeah, net right now, we're down about 3.4 handles on the year for VIX cash, but again, that could turn on a dime depending on the tweets out there. The deal, what's been going on in some of the major indices. Obviously, it's been an up year for most of them. It's just a question of how much. As we kicked off the show, the SPX was up over 17% year to date, almost 17.5% out there. So 1,000 handles, but most people will take 1,000 handles in the S&P. The high-low range, that really to me is a little bit more indicative of just the wild year that it was. It seems wild to look at that print of the low 48.35, but we did get there in that tariff tantrum. If you had cojones of iron, shall we say, and you grabbed that falling knife, you caught it in your hands, you maybe bled for a little bit, but then you've been looking good pretty much ever since. You know, the market's had its bit in its teeth ever since April out there. The high just a bit shy of that 7K level, 69.45. So wild stuff. About a 2,110 point range on the year, which again, I'll have to go do some digging to see if that is the wildest high to low, peak to trough range point wise we've ever had in the S&P, and probably not percentage wise. But I'll have to go look and see to make sure. Maybe we'll do a ranking of the wildest peak to trough in terms of trading range on the years in the S&P. Small caps also having a good year, not quite as robust to the upside. As you know, small caps tend to do their own thing. They're up a little over 28, about 28 and a quarter points in IWM coming into the start of the show. Puts it up about 12.75% on the year. If you follow IWM, maybe some of these prints will resonate to you. The low was 171 and a quarter back in the big mad sell-off in April. The high 258.40, so we are within spitting distance of that all-time high, which again we are out there in the S&P. As we were kicking off the show, we were a little bit shy of that 6,900 level in the S&P. Let's go out to the Qs as well, because the Qs have been wild this year to watch. It's been just the volume numbers we're seeing in the Qs. I mean, the volume numbers everywhere have been insane, but Qs have been extra spicy, especially Q3 and Q4 of this year. And net, the Qs, man, just a wild, up almost 109 handles year to date. That's up about 21.3%. 619 is about where we're hanging out to kick off the show. The high, 637, almost exactly, obviously very recently. The low, 402.39, so 235 point range for the Qs this year as well. Absolutely just wild stuff. Let's drill down a little bit more into the options market, shall we? And again, we'll do further deep dives as the weeks progress here. We'll look back on all sorts of aspects. Probably we'll do a little bit of a deep dive into the show as well that was for 2025. We did it for boot camp, and folks always love when we do a top 10 episodes. Maybe we'll do something like that for OB and for Vol Views and everything else. So stay tuned for all that fun. Of course, we're going to pay off all of the questions of the week that we asked you throughout the year and see how your viewpoints evolved or perhaps didn't evolve on certain topics throughout the year. But we know what did evolve to the upside was options volume this year. We had the Flowmaster on the show a week and change ago talking about how he was counting down the moments until he could mark the 15 billionth contract changing hands. I haven't had a chance to chat with him. Obviously, no Thursday shows this week or last week. So I'll have to reach out to him and see if he's highlighted that particular. He wanted to go find the person who actually traded it. We'll see how his quest has progressed when we talk to him next. But obviously a wild year, 15 billion contracts. The fact that we're even talking about a level like that is just, again, absolutely wild. You know, you go back to looking at the OCC numbers and these things are absolutely wild. I'm looking here right now, and obviously 2025 is the craziest year we've had by far. 2024, 12.28 billion contracts changing hands, again, according to our friends over there at OCC. 2023, 11.1, 2022, 10.37. We were below 10 billion in 2021, 9.9. And again, going back to 2020, we were pretty much exactly 7.5 billion. Just looking at it through the lens of post-COVID, overall options volume has doubled. And it wasn't that long before that. You're talking, a few years before that where we had about 4 billion and change contracts changing hands. 2019, 4.9 billion contracts. So that's why when we get a little excited about something like 15 billion, I mean, overall options volume is up 3x since 2019. I mean, that is absolutely wild, but that's where we are, listeners. So clearly everyone and their mom and their cousin and their baby brother, they're all slinging some options flow out there. Looking at the flow this year, we had some highs and some lows. The high, can you guess? I'll give you a couple seconds and mull it over. Can you guess the day that marked the overall options volume high for the year and indeed of all time? Because any number that we hit this year is pretty much an all-time record. I'll give you the number. The 52-week and indeed all-time most active day in the history of options was 110.7 million contracts. Can you guess the day? I'll give you a little countdown here. 3, 2, 1. It was on October 10th. Some of you might have guessed it was, that April 2nd time frame, but no. That was actually number 2. That was the record until October. April 4th was the busiest day with 101.9 million contracts. And then October 10th came along and said, hold my beer, kids, 110 million contracts. Just an absolutely wild volume day. Again, going back to when I first walked on the floor of the SIBO, let alone when the Rock Lobster and others walked onto the P Coast and stuff. You had the whole industry doing, a few million contracts. So 110 in a day. Absolutely wild. Let's do a quick top 11 for the year, because obviously we don't have the numbers for December yet that are final. The bottom of the year, oh, by the way, speaking of the bottom, the quietest day of the year was 32.5 million contracts. I don't have the exact date on that one, but I will go dig to find the exact trading date for you. You can take a guess if you want and see if you are correct. We will reveal the results later on this week, but let's do our top 11 for the year so far. At the bottom of the barrel, not actually August. August was surprisingly popping this year from a volume perspective. It was actually June. June came in a little bit north of 1.1 billion contracts. Again, that's still, you go back a year and change, and that's the most active month in the history of the business. Again, that just shows how wild it is this year. That's all the way at the bottom of the list. February coming in number 2, 1.12. Again, February, a short trading month as well, so that's always going to be somewhere near the bottom of the list. Then January, 1.15 billion. Again, billion. Billions and millions. I'm swapping them in my head today, but billion for number 9, 1.15 billion. Then May to number 8, 1.17 billion. Then back to March for number 7, 1.23 billion. Pretty close, neck and neck, March and July. March was actually 1.234 billion, and then July just eking it out, 1.237 billion for number 6. Number 5, August. I'll have to go dig. That might be the highest we've ever seen August rank on the annual volume chart. So number 5, August, 1.26 billion. Then number 4, April. Yes, all the way down to number 4, April. A wild month. Only number 4, 1.27 billion. Again, that would have been the number 1. In fact, when it came along, it was the most active month of all time. But then Q4 came around and late Q3 and said, hold my beer, kid. Number 3 is November, just a tick shy of 1.3 billion, 1.299 billion to be precise. Then September, number 2, 1.4 billion. That's usually when the markets start waking back up again after a sleepy summer, even though this August wasn't so sleepy. And the big boy, yet again, they call it Rocktober for a reason, listeners. October, 1.68 billion contracts. You can go dig in over there at Options Clearing Corp's website if you want to see the details, how that breaks down by equity, non-equity, ETF, all sorts of fun. If you want to go deep on stock loan, have at it. We don't really talk stock loan here on the show, but there you go. That's your rankings for the year out there. Listen, Uncle Mike, before we keep rolling with the rest of the show, anything else stand out to you want to add on your 2025 look back, sir?
Yeah, just Bitcoin is down. And I predicted it would go down to 40,000. So I was definitely wrong in that regard, but it did go down. So that's always reason to celebrate.
Let's see if markets are celebrating today out there, shall we? As I said, not exactly a rock'em sock'em robots day out there for the markets. For the bulls, certainly. Uncle Mike, I guess you've been too busy planning for trivia, battles, and of course, preparing your 2025 look back. I guess that's the only explanation we could have for why your cabal isn't buying right now, sir. What's going on? Didn't you get the memo? 2025 is an up year, sir.
Oh crap! We got stuff to do. Well, I'm letting them go on vacation this week, so maybe people here on the show and get the memo to start buying.
Well, as you whip your cabal back to shape, sir, what is catching your eye out there in these red markets to end our OB for 2025, sir?
I mean, today yes, it's red, but it's really light red, I guess, if that's the case. I mean, we are down 0.4% on the day with everything, but the reason I say it's light red is because of the fact that we are 40 points away from the all-time high with which we made 72 hours ago or whatever it is. So we have that. Big story of the day today, I think, is silver. Silver's down almost 10% on the day. And I mean, I think that normally when you don't expect crazy things to happen, crazy things can happen. So I just remember looking on Christmas Eve last Wednesday, just with the huge rally with which silver was having. And it was quite the rally, to say the least. And that we actually were, let's see, what did we top off at? We were over 65 on Christmas Eve. That was something to be said, to say the least. We did close at, we were closed in the 64s on the 23rd, but just with all the movement on a day that's traditionally not a lot of movement, that was something to be seen, to say the least. So that's the big thing with which I'm seeing right now, is that we do have a pretty big sell-off in the silver land in terms of some individual stocks. Nothing to be said for anything that's happening major with any of our triple income stocks that we're looking at, but just looking at a couple others. Tesla is down a little bit over 2% on the day. That's really not a lot for Tesla. We have NVIDIA down 1.5% on the day, Palantir down 1.6% on the day. So there's really not a ton of things that are going down per se. It's just kind of a day where not a lot is happening, and we're down a little bit. So that's really what I'm seeing today. Not a lot.
And now that I spell him for a bit, listeners, he will get busy buying with his cabal. Who knows? Maybe the markets will be green by the time we end the show here, Liz. I did a little digging while Uncle Mike was talking. And it's not in December that we had that daily low, which was in the ballpark, what was it, 32.5 million contracts. The low for December is 50.3 million, at least so far. So it's not been this month if you're looking for the low. I'm guessing it is sometime in that typically quiet summer period, but we shall see. We all have to dig to find the answers. Maybe we'll take some questions in the chat. See whoever can guess it. You'll win some sort of prize. The markets are not exactly winning a volume prize out there today, listeners. As we said a week and change ago on VolViews, December is finally arriving in the vol markets and in the broad markets, and we're seeing that reflected in the numbers. VIX putting up 285,000 contracts as of this portion of the show, so a little bit later than we normally check in with it, and still much lighter than it normally is this time of the show. The ADV coming back to earth a bit as well, 766. That's a more seasonally appropriate ADV for December in VIX land. When we were averaging 1 million contracts a day, I told you that seems like a lot. That is a lot for VIX historically. And it's not something you can normally sustain for very long unless things are really rock'em sock'em out there. Obviously, to end the year there. Not, again, that could change on a dime. That could change with the tweets. But for right now, looking kind of light. So that puts that nearly 300,000 contracts in a little bit different context. If you're wondering what is the hot option out there in VIX land today, such as it is, we're going back to the upside. 61, almost 62,000 of the Feb 30s. Average price for those about 82 cents. And that is opening flow. So there you go. You're down for a little bit of Feb 30 action. Let's just do a quick top 5 since we're here. Number 2, 11,000 of the Feb 15 puts. Then the rest are all pretty light. 8,700 of the Jan 80s. Number 4, 8,600 of the Feb 60s. And number 5, 8,200 of the Jan 65s. Could be some upside vertical or roll action going up there. There is OI in all those strikes, though, so it could be closing on all of them. SPY, right around 5.5 million contracts on the tape right now, which is actually decent paper, all things considered. The ADV has also fallen back to earth a little bit, right around 9.3 million contracts. So clearly over halfway to their ADV in Spyland. The S, 2.05 million contracts. The ADV, 4.08. If I have to wager, probably not going to get there. It seems like the S sometimes sputters out second half of the session, but we'll see. We'll see. Small caps, 700,000 contracts exactly on the tape as of right now. The ADV back to earth a little bit as well, as was north of 2 million contracts a day, which is just an absurd amount of volume for IWM. Still looking pretty hot, 1.6 million contracts, but they have a chance of potentially hitting that today, even though it looks unlikely. And the Qs looking hot out of the gate today as well, 3.1 million contracts. It used to be the Qs 2.25 million by this time of the show, and then kind of sit around doing the rest of the volume the rest of the day, but 3.1 million already, so the Qs looking decently hot out of the gate today. The ADV is about right on 5.25 million, so they certainly have a chance to hit that today. Out to the land of the top 10 we go. You know what, listeners? I'm going to update this again. I'm going to run it again just to make sure we have the latest numbers out here for you. Listen, and you know what? It's still not a banger. Number 10 cost you 171,000 contracts to break into the top 10. So that shows you what kind of day we're dealing with. That gets us to our old pal SoFi. SoFi has been an interesting beast. They flirted with the 30 handle multiple times this year, broke through it. Then SoFi came along and said, you know what? We're going to sell that 30 handle to you. Issued a bunch more stock, diluted the hell out of it, and it came back below the 30 handle again. So at least for the near term, investors in SoFi know they got a bit of a top at 30, at least for right now. 26.91 today, off about 16 cents, so not a wild day for SoFi. Hence, number 10, 171,000 contracts on the tape. Number 9 is our old pal, the Monster, a.k.a. Strategy, Uncle Mike's favorite holding, it's also known as, putting up 180,000 contracts for the number 9 spot. Off about 2.25 handles, about 1.4%, trading 156 double right now. We'll get more into crypto. Don't you worry, I'll be joined by our good buddy, Mr. Greg Magadini. He'll have all sorts of thoughts, I'm sure, on the year that was and indeed still is on the crypto front in 2025. So stay tuned. If you're hanging out in the pro, that will be coming up after option block a little bit later today. So look forward to that one. Should be fun. Number 9, the Monster, 180,000 contracts. Number 8, the Artist, formerly known as Facebook. Yeah, it's Meta. 657 and a third, off nearly $6, or about almost 1%, about 0.9%. Good for number 8 today, 183,000 contracts. Number 7, AMD. 214, pretty much exactly, off nearly $1 or almost 0.5%. Good for number 7, and again, 186,000 contracts. Number 6, the Amazonians, 231.5, off nearly $1, 95 cents right now. Good for 188,000 contracts. And the number 6 spot, number 5, out to Vale/Veil. We love calling it Veil here on the network, listeners, but it is indeed Vale. 12.94, off about 30 cents today. So not often we see Vale making it into the top 10, but there it is. Kind of a sign of how sleepy it is out there today. Will it make it onto the hot options report later today, a.k.a. Thor? Well, you got to stay tuned to find out. Number 4 is the Fruit Company. The Fruit Company says we don't turn red for anybody, even if it's a slight bit of green on the screen today. Apple up a little over $0.5 today, 273.96, just ticked right now, up about 0.2%. And then number 3, it's Palantir, 185.62, off about $3.10, or about 1 2/3%. Good for the number 3 spot, 368. By the way, Apple putting up 227,000 contracts. For the number 4 spot, again, we're all the way at number 2, listeners. We're only at about 1.25 million contracts. That gets us to our old pal, NVIDIA. 187.25 is where it's hanging out right now, off 3.25, about 1 3/4%. Again, 1.25 million contracts for the number 2 spot, and the number 1 spot, edging it out ever so slightly on this pretty light volume day. 1.26 million contracts for the big dog, at least for right now, which is Tesla. Looking a little bit smaller, off nearly $11. Actually, just ticked off $12 now, or about 2.5%, trading 463 almost exactly. Again, good for 1.26 million contracts. Will Tesla hold on to the top spot? Well, stay tuned for the hot options report to find out. You don't have to stay tuned for any earnings reports right now, because there really aren't any, unless you were super excited about Luminar that popped off last week on December 22nd. And then we had GTIM after the bell on December 23rd. And that's it. Ain't nobody popping off this week, listeners. If you want to check out, though, all the data we talked about this year in terms of earnings data, earnings move results, earnings season. We still give it to you because we like you folks, all for free over there on the website, theoptionsinsider.com. Click around. You'll have a good time. As we keep going into Uncle Mike's favorite segment, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
Our chat is making a good guess of the stub sessions that are Christmas Eve and things like that. Christmas Eve, I think, was included in that data I looked up. I'll have to dig a little bit deeper to see exactly what the volume numbers were for Christmas Eve. Also kind of a bit of a cheat to include a stub session, but nonetheless, it is a trading day. And Uncle Mike, I thought, what better way to wrap up our year here on the old OB by looking back a little bit on the old volume side as well. Let's get odd on some of the trades we talked about earlier in the show. We have a ton. We still have a huge backlog to carve our way through. So don't worry, listeners. We are not done looking back on the trades that caught our eye in 2025. But here's a few that we could wet your palate with. Let's kick it off on the December 1st show, listeners. Bath and Body Works Inc., ticker symbol BBWI. It's been an interesting year for them, mostly in the red. They're off $18.50 to the end of the year, or nearly 50%, trading about 20 and a third right now. So not a great year for them. And back on December 1st, Uncle Mike, the stock was trading $18.42. And somebody was feeling their oats. They said, DS19s, how are they? They got a market of 35 cents at 80, which, terrible market. But you know what? They said, we're not deterred. We shall pay 80 cents, good sir, 4,000 times. That is a 65 vol, if you're wondering. They got no earnings, no obvious catalysts in this. Earnings are not until February 26th. So this was just a straight up roll of the upside bones, Uncle Mike. And you know what? Looks like they kind of worked out, which I guess it depends how you view a trade breaking even. Is that a working out or not? Because they pretty much exactly broke even on this trade. They paid 80 cents for the DS19s. And the stock closed, Uncle Mike, $19.79. So technically they lost a penny on the trade, but these were all still open. So they were determined to ride them into the close. And if they did that, Uncle Mike, and they still have the stock, as I mentioned earlier, they're probably looking a little bit better right now, feeling a little bit happier because the stock's trading about 20 and a third right now. So they've gained another roughly 50 odd cents since they did the trade. So Uncle Mike, kind of a weird one. They broke even on the options, but they still have the stock. I guess they're happy campers. What do you say?
I mean, that's definitely possible. The only other thing I could think of is just trying to have the contrarian viewpoint. Maybe it was a short seller trying to hedge his short position. There's always something like that that could be. But in a situation like that, if you're paying just straight cash for a 65 vol option, 1 month out, then I would say breaking even isn't necessarily a bad thing given how those trades typically work out. So break even could be a good thing, I would say.
We've all had losers in that scenario. We definitely would prefer to break even than lose. So not the worst thing, and the stock's looking pretty good. Let's see if our next one is looking good, listeners. Let's go out to the November 17th show. We're talking about CMC. No, not Christian McCaffrey, a.k.a. Uncle Mike's only good pick in fantasy this year that the AI picked for him. No, we're talking about Commercial Metals Company, ticker symbol CMC. They make steel rebar to reinforce concrete buildings, trading $70.82 today, off about 40 cents or about 0.6%. On the year, it's been a mostly good year. So I guess you don't need the magical letters of AI. You also need just steel and rebar because they're up about 2160 or about 44%. So a good year for good old CMC. Was it a good trade? Let's find out. On November 17th, somebody came in and said, Dees 67 halves, how are they? They got a market, this is a good one, 20 cents at 95. So, the terrible market, but again, it is CMC. They said, I will trade 1,200, good sir, for 75 cents. Stock was 59.09 at the time, so a wee bit lower than it is right now. Earnings in January, so this wasn't an earnings trade. This was a straight roll of the bones on some upside in steel rebar. And the stock went out about exactly $2 higher, $69.49 on expiration. So that should mean these bad boys were good and worked out pretty well, but they didn't wait till expiration, listeners. They got out for $1.73 on December 5th. They closed the whole kit and caboodle. So it looks like they made about 120 grand on this trade if they did indeed buy them. So Uncle Mike, not bad. Hit a little bit of a home run in steel rebar in December, sir. What say you?
Yeah, if you really, this is one of those trades to where we all enjoy. If we're in on it, it sounds like a have a hunch, bet a bunch type of trade. And they bought the call. They felt the call made them some money. They got out of it. That's trading. On to the next trade.
On to the next trade, indeed. We're going on to the November 10th show, listeners, to everyone's favorite VIP Shop Holdings Limited. This is ticker symbol VIPS, VIPS. This is an ADR for an online, e-commerce website out of China. Trading $19.20 right now, off about a quarter. On the year, they've had a pretty good year. They're up about $6 or about 45%. So it's been a good year to be in the VIP shop. And what did we spot back on November 10th? Somebody was feeling the oats to the upside. They came in and said, Nove 20s, how are they? When the stock was $19.62, so about exactly 40 cents higher than it is right now. And they got a market of 50 at 95, so a little bit better than our last market, which was 20 cents at 95. They said, I will trade 1,232, good sirs, for 85 cents. They came back and did some more later in the day, but we're only going to talk about the volume that we saw here. Again, the stock was 1962. This was an earnings trade. Earnings were on November 19th, so they were rolling them bones on the earnings. Stock closed on expiration, listeners, $18.64. So by my math, that is below the 20 handle. So not looking great, but it looks like they didn't wait that long. They took them off just a few sessions later. Half of it on the 12th for 70 cents and half of it 2 days later on the 14th for about 65 cents. So they ended up losing about 15 to 20 cents, depending on how much volume they did on each. So not a banger, not a wild trade at the end of the day. I guess they rolled the bones and maybe decided, it ain't going my way. So to their credit, they got the heck out of Dodge while they could. They only lost about 20 cents on this trade, so somewhere in the ballpark of 25 grand. So not the wildest thing at the end of the day, Uncle Mike. But again, maybe a bit of a reminder. Sometimes if the trade's not going your way, Uncle Mike, the best trade is to get out of Dodge and live to fight another day.
Well, was the old saying you guys had on the floor, when in doubt, palms out?
Yes. When in doubt,
and for
palms
those of us
out.
for those of us that never trade on the floor, we can just change it to when in doubt, get out. So that's kind of the way with which it was. And I think that person likely made a good move because they felt that it wasn't going their way. Get out, manage risk, live to trade another day.
And we shall continue going into the final strategy block of 2025.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, one last time for the year. If you can fight back the tears, what you got for the folks, sir?
Well, it's Miller time. And I'm not talking about the beer, Miller time, when you go and drink Miller beer. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Steve Miller on his song, Take the Money and Run. And what I mean by that is that can apply to several things. Like the trade we just talked about in the odd block, there is a time to where it's Miller time, to where you take the money and run. But there's also a time to take your money and run, and that would be to a time to where I think it's very important to just not trade for a while. It's a biblical principle, the Sabbath, and whether you believe in that or not, that's fine. But I think it's important to get rest at some point. This time of year, I'm typically not doing a lot of very active things in the market. I'm still keeping an eye on things because I have a lot of clients that pay me money to do so, which I will, of course. But I'm not putting in a lot of major big ideas or anything. And other people at my firm, I typically, if I need something, I'll usually start off the text with, "Are you working today?" It's important. You need to take some type of rest. I think weekends are important in the trading realm, in that I think it's good that we don't have open markets on the weekends, because I know with me, the second 5 o'clock Central Time comes around on Sunday, I am checking to see how the futures are opening on Sunday night. And it's an addiction, but I think it's a healthy addiction if managed properly, if you will. I've been staring, this is coming from a guy who's been staring at his computer screen for, over 20 years now. I absolutely love markets. I love trading. I love the way that with which it works. But I do think it's important to get away from your screen for a while. Spend time with your family. Go fishing, go hunting, go bowling, go see a movie, whatever the case may be. It's good for your brain to rest, to recharge. And for this week, where a lot of people aren't working or things kind of slow down in the business world, I would encourage you to take a break from your trading. Spend time with loved ones, do whatever you need to do to recharge, because the first week of January, it's coming pretty quick. And I think it's important to be rested. So resting is my strategy for this week.
And our strategy is to keep rolling into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, welcome to Around the Block, where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of this week. We also see how the market's shaping up at the end of the show here. And we have VIX cash down to 14.25. Everything else pretty much the same. NASDAQ off 2/3. S&P off about 0.45%. Dow off about 0.45%. So pretty similar to where it was to start the show. By the way, our producers did some digging during the show. They dug up the 3 half days we've had for the year. July 3rd, 44 million contracts, so not at that low. November 28th, 41 million contracts. And our live chat's guess of Christmas Eve looking good here, 32, by pretty much 32.5 million. So that would be the low according to this chart here. The OCC chart just says 32.5 million. So maybe it was Christmas Eve, in which case, again, kind of a cheat, because it is a truncated trading day, but there you go. I'll have to go dig what the lowest full trading day of volume out there is. But interesting times. Could be midsummer, could be close to a holiday period like right now. We'll do a little bit more digging to reveal those numbers for you. Speaking of revealing things out here, listeners, our question of the week right now is looking ahead a little bit. Get over there at Options if you want to play along. We said, end of the year, let's end it by looking ahead. What do you think will be the big options story or trend or development of 2026? We gave you 3 choices, but of course, as always, with these kind of things, write-ins are welcome. We said 24-hour trading. Could it be the dawn, the advent of zero-day options in single names like Tesla and NVIDIA? Or is it the continued growth of the binary/prediction markets? Or is it something else? Uncle Mike, which of those 3 are you choosing, or do you have a write-in? And then B, which way do you think our audience is going?
What was the second to last choice again before something else?
It was 24-hour trading. It was Tesla and NVIDIA zero-day options, or the continued growth of the binary prediction markets.
I think I'm going to go with binaries for me and the audience.
Certainly not a bad choice. They are hot. But right now, in the early voting, just went live at the start of the show, pretty much, listeners. So 50% right now are saying zero-day Tesla and NVIDIA is going to be the biggest development. A third say the binary/prediction markets, and 16.7% going the 24-hour trading route right now. All 3 of those things could easily come to pass in 2026, and we'll see what the big one is. Get your voice heard over there at Options is the place to go. And Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for this final trading week of 2026? Or yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. 2025, sir.
Wow, I know you have the way back machine, but I didn't know you had the way forward.
I already leapt to the future, sir. Now we have to go back to the future. I just finished watching those movies again recently. They're great.
Oh, they are amazing. I'm watching just watching to see if I need to do anything. I often describe my profession as kind of like a fireman, and that a lot of times you're not doing anything, but when the fire happens, you better know what you're doing. And I'm just making sure there's no fires the rest of the week. I want nothing to happen. I want to chill out this week, but if I have to do something, I will get on that call and put out the fire and do what I need to do.
You want to be a lazy bastard like that rock lobster. Take the week off, don't you?
Well, now that the trivia contest is done, and now that our listeners have gotten their share of the option block, now I can relax.
Now you are finally done, sir. You can now go relax. That music means we are done here on the old OB. But you know what? We ain't done on the network. We're not the Rock Lobster. We're not taking the whole week off. We're here for you, coming back in a little bit, talking all things crypto. Yeah, it's been a wild year on the crypto front. Spoiler alert. We'll be joined by our good buddy, Mr. Greg from Amber Data, to crunch all the numbers for the year. Kind of a wild one, so stay tuned for that. Should be fun. Then we'll be back to wrap up this final Monday of the trading year on the old Hot Options Report. Obviously, no OB on Thursday, so we'll be back again on Monday for the show. And Uncle Mike, if folks want to check out what you got cooking in between then, where should they go? What should they do?
Hey, keep checking out my YouTube channel, putting out new content on there. Probably none this week, but just keep checking it out. Just type in St. Charles Wealth Management. If you want to talk to me directly, go to stcharleswealth.com. Book an appointment with me. Always happy to talk to any of our listeners. Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year indeed. And of course, while you're checking things out online, make sure you check out the folks who help keep this flow of content coming to you throughout the year. Indeed, our sponsors on the show, that would be our friends over there at Tasty Trade, tastytrade.com/podcast, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fire. So if you like getting a slew of free content coming at you throughout the year, and indeed have enjoyed doing so for any part of the past 19 years, make sure you check out the sponsors on the network. Let them know you're hearing about them from the shows. It's a virtuous circle. It helps you, it helps them, it helps us. It's a win-win-win all around. So check out our friends over there at Tasty Trade and everybody else we got cooking on the network these days. Back again in a little bit for the crypto rundown, and then back again with a shortened trading week and indeed content week. No show on Thursday, no Flowmaster, unfortunately. And then back again in the new year with another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.